Well, the difference is public relations is really earned media. It's free media. It's working with different journalists to try and get them to see the value in one of your client's stories. Marketing is a little bit different. It's a little bit more targeted, not so much general market. It's very, very targeted to a specific target audience where you can create messages that really try and dig down deep with your client's service or product.
I am an account supervisor with the Carter Malone Group, and we're PR, marketing, advertising, government relations, you name it, we do it firm.
I am a public relations practitioner. I'm the president and CEO of the Carter Malone Group.
My day-to-day definitely changes. It is not a monotonous job. So I am definitely in a role that is a multifaceted role. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades, if you will.
I mean, it's a challenging job. It's a job that's rewarding. There's never a dull day. And that's what I really value about this job is that, you know, no day is the same. You know, each client is different. You know, from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Tyke T the rapper. I mean, it's just different clashes, and I look forward to that every day.
I assist them with any of their communication needs. So if they need a social media calendar, if they need a press release sent to media, if they need a new media relations plan, I am that girl, and I will go in and I will assist them, sit down, talk to them, get what they need. I would execute the plan. I would loop in people, build a team, loop in some folks like, hey, I need some help on this. We all work together. And once the project is done, we send it back to the client, and the client can say, hey, yes, this is exactly what we need, or hey, let's rethink, or let's look at this a different way. And I will go back and we will all work on it again.
I feel like it's our job to highlight the best parts of our client. You know, just like people, everybody has negative aspects of their business or whatever industry they're in, you know, but it's our job to make sure that they look the best and that the community knows the best aspects of what they do.
What I do on a day-to-day basis varies. I can get up in the morning and say I'm coming in and I'm going to work on these 2 accounts, and I may hit the door at 7:30 in the morning, and at 8 o'clock a client calls and says, we have a crisis. Did you see the newspaper this morning? And then my day is shot. So it just depends. I do try and do a good job of kind of planning my day, but it never goes the way I plan it. Because that's the nature of our business too. You know, clients have crisis issues, or the graphic doesn't work, or the website needs updating, or there's a big story associated with my business that we need your attention right now.
Really, what it boils down to is a firm that helps with just anything that's related to the media and related to communicating with the public.
We have about 8 employees. 4 full-time, 4 part-time, but we use a lot of outside consultants.
I put words on paper to help communicate with people, at least for AutoZone. I mean, that's the easiest way to talk about it. Those words can show up in a lot of places. They can get spoken, or they can show up on paper or whatever. But the goal of any of it is to communicate. Now, with a big company like AutoZone and any kind of large scale marketing, you've got brand considerations, which means that it's not just about communicating with people, but it's also about communicating within that brand. So there's some consistency, because there are elements of that build a recognition and build a knowledge base for a customer, so they know what they're looking for. And so you've got to stay within that, and you've got to do things that work with all the brand work that's been done before it.
I think the highlight is that it almost becomes your baby. So it becomes just like yours to mold into however you feel like it needs to be molded into. So that has I definitely feel like Trident's brand is my own brand. So that's been cool.
One of the main things that I work primarily on, or some of the things that I really do, is I do a lot of media pitching and media relations. So I build a lot of relationships with like media platforms, with reporters, with individuals just across the state and really across the Southeast, and sometimes even nationally. Just depends on what I'm pitching.
My favorite part is pitching stories to the media and trying to figure out, based on what this story is, how many cameras I can get or how much coverage I can get on it. I mean, an example of that is we had a client, Barron Heights Transitional Center, for homeless veterans, and they hired us to elevate the profile a little bit. And so there was a veteran, his name was Jerry Surratt. He was a homeless veteran that just transitioned to a new home, and the story was, we just got him a new washer and dryer, and he's moving into his house. See how many cameras you can get. So I took that as a challenge to make sure that I got every single TV broadcast station to pick this up, and I was successful. You know, this was the first pitch that I did where all the media stations came out, and it was for something that wasn't breaking news. So I felt like that spoke to the creativeness that I put into the news release.
So I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I also just really enjoy the idea of being able to take on a lot of leadership positions as well. Being able to help lead a team, being able to delegate tasks, being able to kind of put in and plug in where I can and where I fit and where my strengths are. So, you know, I do enjoy the pitching aspect, but honestly, like, one of the best parts about what I do right now as an assistant account executive is helping other people or younger staff members or people who are just coming into the company, just kind of giving them a helping hand along the way, and then also working alongside clients at a higher level. So being able to really be in communication with the client specifically and talking to them about what they need, and, you know, their media relations plans or their comms plans or their social media calendars. And I'm constantly in, communication with them. So that's just what I kind of like. It's just the increased responsibility that I have at this role right now.
Well, my favorite thing about the industry is getting to work in so many different types of businesses across different industries. Specifically, like with our firm, we work with a lot of municipal governments, but then public sector too, and then individuals. So it's just very, very diverse. But what I like most about it are two things. I love to write. And then, coming from a video background, I love to write stories. So I'm a big storyteller at heart.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and actually, I can back up a little bit. Like 2 weeks before I did that pitch, we went to a webinar or a seminar on effectively pitching, which is crazy. And Michael Smart was the person that was speaking, and he said that the biggest thing you need to do is to make sure that the subject line is eye-catching and catches their attention, or else they might not even read the email. So I think I did something like, the suicide rate of homeless veterans is at an all-time high. And that caught some attention. And what's interesting, the article had nothing about suicide in it. I mean, the pitch had nothing to do with suicide in it, but it was in the subject line. So that worked.
Okay, so I think my favorite thing about the industry as a whole is that it is never stagnant. And that is kind of a mantra for me, is like, never stay stagnant. And so it's cool that I'm in an industry that is ever changing. I mean, it changes almost daily. There are different algorithms that come out, or there's a different like strategy, or there's a whole different social media platform in general, right? So like Reels on Instagram just came out. TikTok was, it's been here, but it's pretty still new in the whole social presence. And so I love how it's just so ever changing, because it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me learning. I feel like I am a lifelong learner, because I'm in an industry that will never stop growing and will always keep changing, because there's going to be people that will always try to push the envelope within this industry. And so I just think that's probably my favorite thing, is that I'm never just stagnant within the industry.
My least favorite part of it is probably depending on others to get the job done, which is interesting to say because I own an agency, right? And so, but I try and learn almost everything I can do, even when it's new media, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with me.
Sometimes when you're at a public relations event and you have to wrangle in the media and, you know, garner everybody together, I just don't like that piece. I know it's a really particular aspect of it, but that's the piece that makes me the most uncomfortable, but I do it because it's my job.
When there is something negative that pops up, because it is such like held so true to your heart, that brand is so held true to your heart, it can be hard to not take it a little personally when something negative pops up in the whole branding scheme of things. And so that would kind of be one thing that I struggle with, just because it is my baby.
Or something that we've pitched or something is not successful, and having to work with the client and figure out, you know, and then my team, what really went wrong. You know, was it something we recommended that we thought would be successful, but then it wasn't? But why wasn't it successful? What did we not do well? And so that's the part that the least part that I love about, I like about the business that we're in. So, you know, working in a corporate environment is very, very different. It's very singularly focused, because you have that one entity that you work for, and there are different aspects of the job. You know, it may be you have to do a strategic communications plan, external or internal. So the work product is the same. The difference is when you're with an agency, you may have 20 clients on your roster. And so it's not single focus. It's not St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It's Methodist Hospital. It's Regional One. It's Blue Cross. So you have to be able to, in a timely fashion, kind of juggle all of those clients' needs. So it's a major difference.
I had more creative responsibilities than I do at AutoZone in terms of, you know, I might have a development responsibility with regard to web and some design responsibilities as well as the writing. So you have to really be on your toes and kind of checking yourself when you're doing all aspects of it. The good thing about that situation is you don't have to mess with anybody else's ideas or attitude. You know, if you have a creative vision for something, you can just execute it top to bottom. At AutoZone, you're talking about a big company, so I almost work on nothing by myself. And we do have multiple brands and multiple target audiences and some different voices, but you know, it's 4 or 5 at the most.
Biggest issue is the lack of diversity and the fact that a lot of firms, and the fact that a lot of my firms, or a lot of firms, you know, that I know of, don't know how to address it, right? A lot of these companies just come out with these statements that are just kind of like blanket statements, right? Like, do you even really care about your Black employees? Do you even care about your, you know, Latino and Latina communities in your offices? Do you even have that community in your office? I think that one of the things that the field is missing as a whole is just a better representation of the world that we're actually in, which starts at the recruitment phase. You know, if the firm in that area isn't recruiting at the school or at the place you're located, you know, how are you ever going to know?
There is a lack of diversity, but I think that's changing in our industry. I think people don't know that much about it. I mean, they know about broadcast news because they see it every day, or they're listening to the radio, or they're monitoring it on social media platforms. But I think that the more people, young people, that see folk like myself, folk like Renee Malone, folk like Howard Robertson and Beverly Robertson, who've been in this field a long time, if they can see themselves in us, then they know that there's a place, seriously a place in this field for them. So, and I just think a lot of African American and Hispanic young folk may not know what we do. And once they understand what we do and they have an interest in it, then I think that they'll see that there are opportunities.
I say the class with the biggest impact was my public speaking class. You know, being a naturally introverted person, it took a lot of work for me to be able to communicate effectively. And I'm still working on it to this day. You know, it's not something that you can perfect. It's just something that you build over time. You know, just some of the lessons that my teacher instilled about, you know, find a way to make yourself comfortable, and, you know, just other internal little notes that I still apply to this day.
Yeah, so the Allstate was definitely my bread and butter. That was the one thing that I dedicated most of my life to in college. But other than that, I mean, I played a little club soccer here and there. I was involved in a lot of different like honor societies. I was in the honors program. And so those sort of extracurriculars kind of took up some of my time, but the Allstate was definitely my bread and butter. That was kind of the one thing that I found that I just really connected with, and I connected with the people and the job. And so, yeah, that's definitely the one thing that I dedicated the majority of my college life to.
To be honest with you, not a lot. I think what's prepared me the best for this role that I'm in right now was my experience working on the newspaper, working in a fast-paced environment, working in a place where there were hard deadlines. Everybody was kind of all over the place. Everybody was trying to figure out what the next thing was, what the next story was, how we were going to get the next story, who we're calling, who's in charge of this department, who do we need to reach out to. I think that working in a newspaper setting was probably the best thing that prepared me for my role now, because it helped me manage, you know, it helps me with my time management. It helped me with understanding, you know, the importance of a deadline. It helped me understand the importance of gaining and maintaining relationships. It helped me with event planning. It helped me with learning how to use a photo, being a photographer, using a DSLR camera, on top of learning how to use Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, all of those really vital things that, you know, we have to utilize every all the time.
In my view, if you already have a body of work, I mean, if you have an interest, like whether you're a photographer, whether you're a blogger, if you've already been doing that before you apply for the job, and you can kind of show that you've had an interest in the industry, I think that's important. It shows that you have a passion for what you do. Off top, that's one of the most important things I would look for, just somebody that had an interest before they've applied or before they were in school, or just while they're in school, just a general interest in the industry.
Get some experience that isn't your common experience. Try to go out, think outside the box about the things that you want to pursue and the things that you want to at least try. I think one of the things that kind of set me apart was that I interned for Twitter, when I was in graduate school. How many people do you know that's interned at Twitter? How many people do you know that's interned at, everybody will intern at, maybe, say like an on-campus job. Everybody will have that internship. But what's going to set you apart is your experience and your ability to figure out how to land some of those internships that just aren't what everybody else is doing. I would also say make sure that your resume is tight. Make sure it's tight. You learn, you make sure you learn AP style. I tell a lot of students that I talk to, make sure that you're taking your AP style class seriously, or you work for the campus newspaper. Because the best way to learn AP is to be using it on a regular basis.
Kind of keep putting yourself out there, finding places that may need a social media intern or may need, an entry-level person within their department, and then finding somebody who has been in the industry for a while and letting them mentor you and letting them kind of show you their own journey and then how that could potentially shape your journey, because that's what helped me specifically, is having those mentors in my life that really truly helped shape.
I would say you have to do it. That's probably the biggest thing. And don't be above anything, because as good as you might be or as good as you think you are, you probably aren't as good as you think you are. I know that sounds mean, but in order to get good or in order to get better, even if you are as good as you think you are, you could stand to get better, anyone. You have to do it, and you can't be above anything. I think that was something I struggled with early on. I'd be like, oh, well, I've done this and I've done that, so I don't need to work on this again. And it wasn't until maybe a few years down the road that I was like, no, really, I should work on everything and be really, really good at every single thing.
Over the next 5 to 10 years, and this is something that I haven't shared with a lot of people.
Enrich Media exclusive.
Enrich Media exclusive. I'm very interested in music and artist management. So it's my goal in the next 5 to 10 years to have a successful branch of Carter Malone Group in the music space. So that's what I'm working towards every day. I've actually reached out and have been mentored by Artemis Pepper Williams, who was a longtime manager for Yo Gotti, and has brought acts like Moneybagg Yo and other acts. So he's kind of teaching me the ropes on some aspects of the music business. The branch of music development, artist development, and music management for Carter Malone Group.
So I absolutely love the company that I am in. They are so amazing about taking care of their employees and really investing in their people. And it's kind of a company that you just don't see, just the benefits, the competitive pay, like all of the perks and all of just the really great culture things that they implement within the office. So next 5 years, I have no plans on leaving this company whatsoever. So we're still technically a startup. We are growing like crazy, but we're still a startup. So for me, my vision is, of course, to still be with the company, but be more of a marketing director role, and then having little me's underneath to where I have marketing brand managers. And we have 3 locations. So having a marketing brand manager in Chattanooga, having one in Tampa, having one in Minneapolis, and then they all report to me as the marketing director, and kind of just overhead and spearheading the whole marketing direction and branding direction that the company needs to go towards. So that's my plan.
God did not put me in this position to just come in, shake a few things up, and then leave. I do want to see a lot of the things that I've started, I've put my foot in and dabbled in a bit. I want to see those come to fruition.
Oh, my favorite part, I get to do whatever I want to do. My clients always say, oh, Seville, we come in here, you just do whatever you want to do. That is correct.
I didn't work at the shop, so where's my money coming from? So I had to go into my money from my 9 to 5 to pay my booth rent.
Of course, entrepreneurship is on me. My next step would be trucking services.